All right. So before you do the walkthrough, right? I think there's some things that you need to go ahead and ensure you kind of know or review, okay? Because there's some things that you need to review before you do the walkthrough. And this is where Ione and Joseph really shine because they go through the items that we've talked about in the previous Zooms, right? They go through the OM, they go through the rent roll, they go through the T12, and they've done some sort of market analysis on the area itself, and they've already done the preliminary underwriting, right? This is what is based on these items here. They're making a judgment on whether or not we should proceed or not go forward with it, right? And so them analyzing these items will tell them, they're going to be looking at the T12, the rent roll, and they're going to have more questions. But at the same time, they've done the market analysis and preliminary underwriting that they're like, okay, I think we have something here. Let's go walk it. Right. So it's important for you guys to go through some of these items before and really understand it so that when you go over there, you can have a better idea of what you're going to be looking at. For example, I'll break it down for you guys. What's the purpose of a property walkthrough? Here's the purpose of it, because some of you guys may be like, what questions do I ask in my walkthrough? Strategically for us, right, we are going to ask questions based on some of the T12 and rent roll, right? And that's what I was saying is why Joseph and Ione are this is where they shine, because they're going to go and ask questions based on some of the financials that they see on the property. Like, what are the current rent rates for the unit mixes specifically that they have? Because it'll tell you what the gross potential rent is, and the rent roll may break down some of this stuff, but they want to hear it from the property management themselves, right? One of the things that Joseph and Ione love to ask for when they go through a property walkthrough is they ask for a brochure or like a property, just like a breakdown of what exactly is a one bedroom, one bath unit going to cost. What does a 2-1 look like? What does a 3-2 look like, etc. Right? Those are some of the questions that I've noticed that when they go to property walkthroughs, they always ask this. Right, Joseph? I see you every time. Hey, do you have a brochure? Can you write the prices down?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just to make sure we have the accurate numbers from the property management themselves.
And on top of that, a lot of times they will have like a pro forma rent or market rent for the property, right? Well, sometimes you'll get in there and they're already using that market rent or property or pro forma rent. So it's good to ask that so you can see, hey, how many units are actually renting at this price right now? What has been the feedback that you've been giving since you've started implementing that price? So you can find out, hey, is this something that's got a proof of concept already? Like people are already buying at that price, or maybe it's filling up so fast. Maybe you can even go higher than that. And that's something that the OM's not going to tell you. That's something you have to find out either by going and doing your own research in surrounding properties or by going to the property and asking yourself. And a lot of times the property manager will give away a lot more than I guess they're supposed to, right? But I love it because I love making that connection with the person and actually getting into the nitty gritty about what's going on.
Exactly. And then some of those prices that they may write down, depending on the type of property and asset class, right? You may want to ask if those specific prices that they wrote down for you is that just the base rent, or is there anything like utilities in there, like any rubs? And if so, how much, right? What is a tenant responsible for, if anything, right? And depending on the asset class, again, you should kind of already know if there's pet fees or other income based on the T12 that you've been looking at. But if there are pets, like, what are the fees, right? You may want to ask that question. Like, is there a deposit? Is there like a non-refundable deposit? Is there a pet fee, like monthly? You want to know that stuff because it'll give you a better idea. Also, if there's any storage, again, this all ties to the T12, right? You'll know if there are storage units, but you want to just make sure and ask these questions, hearing it from the property management company or the property manager itself. And then verify, I'd like to ask this question, like, what is your current occupancy? They'll tell you, right? Mm-hmm. They'll tell you it's like, we're currently at blah, 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 or whatever. And then if there's anything that has to do with short-term rentals or midterm rentals or corporate rentals, right? You want to ask those questions as well. It's like, what are the rates? How often are they booked? Those are things that, you'll ask strategically based on the financials that you're looking at. And there's a bunch of other questions that we can ask, guys, but this is kind of an idea of some of the questions that, you know, we would ask based on the financials.
Yeah, and I want to throw this out there that all of this you can see in the financials, right? It's pretty standard stuff. But guess how many times that guess how many properties that we've been through where we asked this and we got every single answer the exact same as what it says in the T12. Can you guess how many properties that's been? I can tell you right now, not a single one of them have ever been exactly what the T12 rent roll tells us. Maybe it's just because, hey, that information is now slightly outdated. That was 2 months ago. We just started doing the rent increases. Or, hey, there's no pet income on the rent roll on the T12, but yeah, we do charge for pets, but that wasn't reported. You know, there's so many times where that happens, where there's some inconsistencies. So use the T12 and rent roll to get a base for your questions, and then just start grilling them. Get everything you can think of. You want to ask, because you don't want to have to come back to do the same thing over again. Mm-hmm. So you're going to use all of these as kind of like a starting point, and we'll give you some more too, but you're just up front and grill them. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're about to buy this property that in their eyes, you're some person that's got a whole bunch of money, you know, because most people don't know how to buy apartments, right? It's not common knowledge. So the fact that, you know, we're coming in with no money and doing this, that is unheard of to people. People that buy apartments have a shit ton of money. That's the viewpoint. Even my family thinks that. I'm like, bro, I'm broke as a joke over here. I'm still like trying to make some money. So definitely ask whatever question you want to. You're there for that reason.
Right. The only thing I would add to that is the property manager is a property manager. Typically, they're not involved so much into the financials itself, right? So if you're going to grill them, you know, strategically ask questions that a property manager can answer. And what I mean by that is, you know, you're not going to say, hey, in the T12, I saw that you had this big expense, you know, and they may not know, right? So just kind of, you know, when you're asking these questions, ask the questions that relate to the property, not necessarily so much from the financials. Those will be questions that you can ask the broker, or if you're direct to seller, you can ask them and they'll be able to articulate that more. So just wanted to add that out there.
Yeah, it's a super good point, because in the beginning, I didn't know that. So I'm like asking all these questions about the T12 and the rent roll, and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, damn, well, what do you know?
Yeah, 100%. But let's keep going to the next slide. So what other questions do I ask, right? These are some other questions that you guys can ask in general, right? Like, if you don't have an idea of what other income they're providing or they're getting, right? One of the questions you can ask is it a pet friendly complex? You should know that if they have a good T12, but if they don't say that on T12, you know, it's a good question to ask. Another question I would ask is, what is a tenant base / type of tenant? You know, what do they do for work? That's a good question to know what kind of tenant base that you're looking at for the particular property. And you'll probably be able to tell based on the asset class too, right? In the area when you're driving there, but it's still good to know just so that you have it for your future reference. Another question, depending on the asset type, right, that I'd like to ask, especially in Class A, is there a premium for any of the units? For example, like first floor units may have a premium because they're on the first floor, right? It's easier. People like to get those units because they don't want to carry their groceries 3 flights of stories up every single week, right? So you know, some properties take advantage of that, and that's another form of income that you guys can have in the future if you have the property allows for it, and the underwriting as well. Another one that you want to know, again, if you don't have clear financials, then is there washer and dryer connections for the units? Who supplies a washer and dryer? Is it a third party, or do they have to bring their own washer and dryers? Right? Those are important questions to know, especially if there's other income, but they don't list it or break it out, right? Then you want to know where that other income is coming from. You know, washer and dryers could be another form of you guys as an opportunity to add other income in the future. I would not depend on that. I'm just saying these are things that you can think about adding another form of opportunity or other income to your future underwriting. Another one is, as you start walking the property, is there any assigned parking spots? If you don't see them clearly labeled, or maybe it's a little washed out, then you might want to ask this question. Do the units have, or do the tenants have assigned parkings? And if they do, how many per unit, and how many cars are allowed per unit as well, right? These are good questions to ask when you're walking the property. Anything you want to add on that, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, guys, there's no way that we're gonna be able to put all the questions that we ask
Oh, I got some more though.
on these slides. Oh, we definitely have more, but just in general, there's no way that we could get all of them. So yes, there's gonna be some other questions out there that are not on these slides that you should definitely be asking. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. This is not the limit. This is just a starting point. So I have definitely some stuff. So let's wait until we get to the end of the questions, and I'll just throw out everything else that I can think of that we haven't covered.
Perfect. Awesome. Then let's move on to the next one. What other questions do I ask? Here's some other ones that you can ask as well. If it's depending on the asset class, right? Class A or C, typically you'll see this in C's, right? They have a renovated unit and they have a classic unit, right? When you're walking the property, I would ask, can I see a classic unit? Can I see a renovated unit, right? You want to see the differences in those. Also, if they have any down units, can we see them, right? I mean, this was an important question for us to ask when we walked one of the properties in East Texas. It was a Class C property. And, when we went through the walkthrough, right, the brokers seemed like they were purposely hurting us to the better looking properties, right, to the better looking units. And, we asked towards, the walkthrough, the kind of like the end of it, hey, do you have any down units that we can take a look at? And the very first thing that the broker said is, you don't want to take a look at those. And we were like, we absolutely do want to take a look at those. And so they showed us the down units, and they were in very bad shape. I mean, one of them was having water come in every time it rained. One of them had backed up because of the plumbing. These were things that we wanted to see while we were there at the walkthrough, because that's going to correlate back to our underwriting and analysis, right? These are important questions to ask. I would definitely ask that. And again, it depends on the asset class, right? You may not see this on a Class A, but you'll definitely see something like this on a Class C.
Definitely.
How long does it take them to turn over a unit? This is an important question that we like to ask, right? Their typical response is maybe like a week or two, right? But you just want to make sure and kind of know what their process looks like when they're turning over a unit. Also, what are they budgeting? Again, this is more of I would say Class C, Class B type of question. Some of the Class A's are a little less, but you still want to know. But what if it's a value add, you definitely want to know what kind of budgeting they're doing, like approximately per unit for the renovated units, just so that you have an idea and kind of compare to their T12 or their OM on what they're saying, kind of go and see if they're match, basically, right? Another one is, what are they renovating, right? You can probably take a look at the units that are renovated and kind of get an idea of what they've been doing. But I would still like to ask, hey, flooring, cabinets, appliances, paint, etc., right? Just kind of get an idea of what they're doing is also a good thing to look around for. And also, if it's a value add, again, what major repairs have they done on the property, right? Have they done anything on the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, the HVACs? These are good questions to ask, because one time I was walking through a Class C property. It was one of the first walkthroughs I did with an experienced person. And this is, I think it's on my next slide, so I'll wait till the next slide. But yeah, it was a good question, especially for your value adds, right? But okay, so we'll go to the next one. Other questions that you can ask in general. How long does it take to turn over a unit? I think I already covered that. This is the question that I was talking to you guys about just now. This is an important question for a Class C value add that I like to ask, and I learned it from someone else, is, what is your number one maintenance issue? And if you could wave a magic wand and money wasn't an issue, what would you address or fix? And you would be surprised on what the property manager will reply with. before I can even ask or finish, what is your number one maintenance issue? Like a second later, the property manager said, plumbing. Immediately. It was so fast, plumbing. And like that's our main thing that we have here. You know, tenants are always putting in request for plumbing. And then, okay, cool. What if you had a magic wand? What would you fix as well? ACs. Our ACs are blah blah blah. You know, so that question in itself, if it's a value add, they'll tell you depending on the property management, right? Because some property managers are awesome, and someone you go walk are not so awesome, right? I think Joseph and I walked the property not too long ago in Houston, where the first property, I think is the first one that we walked, the property manager was just not the very good property manager. And we noticed why the property wasn't running as well as it should because of the property manager. It's a direct reflection on the property manager. During the walkthrough, we were asking questions and they didn't really know how to answer these questions. And alongside with that, very unprofessional because they took personal calls while we were doing the walkthrough and they were just gossiping. They were speaking in Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. I know exactly what they were saying. And they were just talking about like gossip. And we're here walking through the property and you know, it's a direct reflection on how the property is being maintained and managed. And so you'll run into some good property managers, like the one of the very first ones that we walked in Houston, Joseph. I know you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Where any
almost
question
good.
that we would ask the property manager, they knew immediately, and you can just tell it was night and day on how good they were and why that property was running so efficient.
Yeah, it was day and night between the two. And honestly, I would say that that's probably the best property manager that we've come across, other than that other one that we had spoken to. It was Yumi and Ione. So those two are definitely the top two that I've come across. I haven't seen anybody else better than them or handle things better. Even the ones that we are about to hire for our properties, or the one that we did hire and the one we're about to hire. I think those two were so good at what they're doing and just knowing what was going on with the property and having different ideas to make it better. I mean, that's what I look for in a property manager. I don't want someone to just do what they're told. I want someone to take care of the property like it's their property and just going above and beyond, which is hard to find and definitely even harder to ask for, right? I mean, you can ask for it all day, but to actually get that is just, man, it was night and day.
Yeah,
We'll just say.
exactly. And I mean, just to tell you a little bit more about that specific property manager is that they loved what they were doing and they cared so much as if they were the property that on their free time, guys, this is impressive. On their free time, they would go and flyer at local like grocery stores or, you know, retail spaces about the property just because they wanted to. They would go and flyer for the property. And I was blown away because I don't see that very often, right? And to have someone like that manage a property, that's amazing, 100%. So you'll know, trust me, you'll know when you start walking these properties, who's a good property manager and who's not. Another question I would ask, and Joseph and Ione ask this all the time, is do they have any maintenance people, staff like on site, right? And again, you would probably be able to tell based on the financials, but you know, you just want to verify, right? Because sometimes they'll say, you know, we have people here who are full-time or we have people here who are part-time, or they may be remote, right? Also, is a property manager themselves a full-time employee or are they part-time? Again, you might be able to tell this on the financials, but you just want to know, right? Also, like what are their office hours, if any, right? And how do tenants, you know, how do they put in their maintenance requests for emergencies when it's weekends or after hours? You know, what does that process look like? That's another one that Joseph and Ione like to ask, just to kind of see how the property is being maintained and ran, right? What do I have here? Other things that you can do aside from those general questions. And I think some of this things is based on what I learned, not only from ourselves, from other people, but also on the call yesterday with Carrie. She touched up on a few of these things as well that we like to do. And she goes above and beyond doing some of these things as well. We like to drive through and see what the neighboring comps look like, right? If we're there, if I'm in Houston, I live in Dallas, guys. So if I'm in
Yeah.
Houston, I make that drive to go walk a property. I'm going to make it my worthwhile, right? I'm going to go and drive neighboring comps and check out what the competition looks like, right? I'm going to also go and inquire about some of their units. If there's, I like to ask if there's like a waiting list for any of their unit mixes, right? Because that shows me, how strong that little market is or whatever that market is at. I like to ask that question, if any. If I can walk one or two, I will, right? As a potential tenant, I will go and walk and see what they have. I'll also see what the process looks like for a new tenant, like, what kind of application fees they need to do or other fees associated for the process, just so that I know. And also check out their amenities, right? If they have amenities similar to the subject property that I'm looking at, I want to check those out. Or if they have different ones where the other one does it, I still want to see what my competition looks like. I want to look at their parking, see how much parking they have available, and if they have reserved or carports or a garage. I want to look at all that stuff. And also, if they do any premiums for any units, I will want to inquire about that too. The main goal for this, guys, is to kind of just see what the rates are on the units that you're looking at or the property that you're looking at to compare to your subject property. It's like comping. That's all you're doing. You just want to make sure that if there's a 1-1 at this property, it's very similar, then whatever you're looking at, they're pricing it around the same for the same type of unit and the looks alike and it's built in the same, all this stuff. Just make sure that you're comping similar units to similar units, apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So that's the main goal of you checking out the other competition. So here's some other things that you can do aside from that, right? Check out the area. Again, if I'm making the drive from Dallas to Houston, I'm going to make sure I check out the area, make it worthwhile. If I'm there, because typically Joseph and I will hang out and talk more about business when we're there, hey, it's nighttime. Let's go look at the property. What does it look like at night? Right? I think Joseph walked one with KJ not too long ago. And during the day, just during the day, KJ was like, Joseph, I don't feel so safe here. So imagine what it would feel like at nighttime, right? So these are some of the things that you can do. It might look good during the day, but maybe at nighttime it turns to a whole different atmosphere, right?
Mhm.
What does a parking lot look like at night? Is it well lit? Does it look safe? The main goal is to familiarize yourself with the area and the things that you're doing and just kind of have a better understanding of what you're getting yourself into. I think that's most of the questions that I have, Joseph. You're up, bro.
Bro, nah, I mean, you pretty much covered a lot of it. Like that, those, I mean, even if we don't add any more, that is enough to get you guys started. And the other questions might just come naturally through conversation. Before I add any more, like as you're doing this, just be intentional about it. Don't just ask the question and then wait to ask the next question. Ask your question, listen with intent to what they say, and then find out if you can probe deeper on what they're telling you. Then move on to the next question or next section. Sean said, will you go back one slide?
For you, Sean, because you're always driving and you're always here, yes. There you go.
But for real, like that is super. That's just that one little piece of advice. You might not even need half of these questions or memorized or anything like that if you just do that. If you just listen intently to what they're telling you, rather than just ask a question, wait, ask a question, wait, and write it down. If you are not taking notes when they're telling you all this stuff, you're not gonna remember any of it. I can tell you right now, you better bring some pen and paper or take notes on your phone or scribble on the back of the brochure that they give you. You need to write it down. Like if you're not writing it down, there's no point in you even going, to be honest. You're wasting your time.
And kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. The main purpose for the walkthrough, obviously you have an interest in going forward. You want to get, these questions asked, but it's more or less to go back also to your underwriting and refine it some more, right? You're going to have all the answers or most of the answers to the things that you came in asking. And it's just going to keep updating more and more, guys. You're going to have a better understanding of that area. You're going to have a better understanding of what you're looking at, what the numbers are, kind of understand the numbers. But it's all that for you guys to get to refine it some more. based on the walkthrough and maybe some follow-up questions to the broker afterward, then you can determine whether or not you should put in, submit an LOI, right? If the property looks good, and this is why we say the OM has a lot of fluff, because the pictures may look good on the OM, right? They may look really good, in which we had, Joseph, we had an OM of a property that looked amazing on the OM. But when we walked it, even during the day we walked it, it was not anywhere near as good looking as what the OM had showed. So this is why it's important for you guys to go and walk the properties if you're at that point, because the OM may look pretty, but once you go to the actual property itself, false advertisement.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is not a rare thing. That happens so often. Yeah. So often.
For at least some of the value adds, right? I mean, the class A's are different, but I'm speaking more on the value add properties. So
here, a couple more things you can ask is going back to the staff, right? Who you have on your staff. Are any of them living on the property? I don't remember seeing that question, but you know if any of them are living there, because one, it's gonna tell you a couple of things. How close is this person? And I know that was a question. So you're gonna see what kind of availability they have to help, like if it's the maintenance or property manager. It's good that they live there, but sometimes it's also not so good if they're getting a huge discount. Like maybe they're getting their unit totally free. Maybe it's 50% off. Maybe it's only 25% off. Those are questions you want to find out too. Let's see what else. Is there security? Is there a courtesy officer on the property, or do you have hired security? Is there cameras? All of that you can typically see on the walkthrough or things like that. Oscar touched on a great point about what does the property look like at night. You can ask that to them too. Hey, what happens at night around here? What is this like, club disco, or should I like stay indoors? What goes down on the property at night? And you can joke. I mean, I like to have fun. I joke around with everybody. I mean, that's just my nature, but you can definitely do that. Oh, look, I see Carrie dropping some fire in the chat. Look at that. Hang on, I'll read it out. It says, in Texas, there are rules about how much you can discount rents for employees. It has to either be free or 20%. I have no idea why, but it's why it is what all my PMs still me. So there you go. Now you have the answer for Texas.
Yeah.
But every state is different.
Yeah. And again, guys, all these questions, there's tons of questions that we can ask. There's so many more that we can add on here. We're just doing the most general questions that we can think of. But as you start doing more property walkthroughs, you'll start to know what to say, what to ask, and strategically go and ask these questions based on what you are looking for your deal. So, it's one of those things that you just have to practice more and more. Right. And again, Ione and Joseph, they love property walkthroughs. Like, this is where they shine. Like, they're the ones who are just taking lead. They'll go and walk with the property manager, and property manager's in the middle, and they're sandwiched in between Joseph and Ione, side by side, walking through, and they're both asking questions and writing everything down. But it's really cool, guys. It really is. You start doing these walkthroughs, and again, it's just one of those things that you're like, oh wow, okay, cool. You see whether it's a property you want to walk, or whether it's a property you want to proceed, or immediately see if it's one that you don't. So it's important. It's an important process for sure. Oh, another one that we like to do, if we have a chance to talk to a tenant, we will, right? Or a neighboring property, right? We'll talk to a tenant as well and say, hey, the property across the street. I think Joseph did this before.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up that story.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
So we had went to one property. Everything looked good. It was phenomenal. Ultimately, we ended up not going with it because we couldn't structure anything with them. But when we went there, right after we walked the property, we went to the property right next door, and just to go do the exact same thing, what Oscar's been talking about, going to see what it looks like, compare the rents, and just see what's going on. Because it looked really nice. It's almost identical property, but you could tell that this one had been renovated. And we started asking about the area and different units. And we walked, hang on, let me backtrack. We walked around the property. There was no leasing office, but there was a lady sitting outside her unit. And so we just started asking questions about that property. Hey, how much is rent here? You know, what do the apartments look like? Blah, blah, blah. And she ended up telling us, she's like, yeah, this place is nice, but that one right there across the street, and she pointed at the subject property. She's like, that one is not good. Yeah, it's super cheap and it's all bills paid, but is nobody takes care of it. And it's been like that for so long, blah, blah, blah. She told us all this inside information that we did not find out by the property manager. And the property manager was super nice, very nice lady. And she told us so many things and she was very forthcoming, but that was not something that we learned from that property manager. So just by talking to some random lady, some tenant sitting outside smoking a cigarette, just chilling. And on top of that, she's like, hey, you know, did you guys want to see a unit? I was like, she said, do you guys want to come in and see my unit? We were like, okay, sure, why not? Like, we might get murdered out here, but you know, we'll be okay. No, I'm just kidding. She was a very nice lady. She let us come inside, and it was her and her son. They're just in there, just straight up chilling, watching TV, and she just let us tour her apartment unit. Just, we didn't ask her to do that. I mean, we were not going to ask to go inside someone's unit that they're living in, that we're not looking to buy the property. But she was like, hey, since you guys are here, do y'all want to just come check it out? We were like, absolutely. And it was a really nice apartment unit. I can see why they were getting the rents they were getting, which was like 200 more than what the pro forma was on the other property. And that's because that person paid really good attention to detail. And even though it was a Class C property, it had Class C interior. I mean, I'm sorry, it had Class A interior look to it. The kitchen was really nice, had lots of backsplash, new cabinetry, new handles, new everything in there. And then the bathroom and the rooms, the same thing, new flooring, new everything in there looked marvelous. And I could see why they were getting those prices.
By the way, guys,
Without going,
I want to add, guys, don't put yourself in any danger.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's common sense, but guys, don't put yourself in any danger. It's like, oh yeah, Oscar and Joseph told us to go talk to a neighbor and go in their units. No, guys, exercise your own caution,
Yeah.
right? Do your trust your judgment. Don't put yourself in any danger. It's just so happened that that person was there, and Joseph and he was with a couple others of the walkthrough. They walked in. Awesome opportunity, by the way, but just FYI.
No, good FYI. Definitely don't use your best judgment.
Oscar and Joseph told me to go walk a property at night. I almost got murdered. No, don't do that.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh man, we have so many stories, guys, that we've seen. We've seen some stuff in property walkthroughs. Almost saw a guy die, by the way, but I won't touch the.
Oh no, bro! That's a good story, actually. Let's just say, I'll very briefly. We were about to buy this property. Oscar and Ione show up to this property. They walk it. They're going to leave, and as they're leaving, they're driving past a dumpster, and then they see a person on the floor with some blood, and they call the cops. Probably saved that guy's life that day.
Yeah, I think so. And this was during the day, guys.
During the day. So we walked away from that property so fast. That's as far as we'll go into that.
Exactly. All right, guys. Was this helpful or not? Let us know. Put some fires in the chat. I mean, did you guys find any value in this? Let us know.
Well, actually, it's St. Patrick's Day. Put some clovers in the chat. Let's go. Let's go. I love it. Yeah, I love this topic. It's a lot of fun, guys. It really is. Like, for those of you that haven't walked a property before, I highly recommend that. Even if you feel like this deal is not a deal, it's not going to pan out, or maybe our pricing is too far, I recommend that if you have the time, just go and do it anyways for the experience part of it, because you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to learn some other things to look for as well, especially if that's in the market that you're looking at properties. because every market's different. Texas is different from Louisiana. Louisiana is different from Georgia and Florida and Arizona. Every market's different. I mean, just from Texas to Arizona, right? The buildings are totally different. They're made differently. Same with the East Coast. Buildings are made differently. So you're going to see different things as you're going along in these property walkthroughs.
Exactly.
And if you have a guy or a female, whoever that has construction experience,
Oh yeah,
bring them.
definitely.
That will help
Definitely.
so much.
Yeah, 100%. That would help you out so much.
Oh, look, I like what Felix said. He said, if you see someone posting that they will be walking a property, ask if you can go along. Absolutely. I know we've done that. I know Jabs did that on the property that we're doing right now. He put out a message, hey, I'm going to be down here walking on property. If anybody wants to come, hit me up. I think we had like 4 sub-2 students show up at the property.
Yeah. Guys, if this was helpful, shout us out on IG. Let us know, let everybody know that you guys getting some value here. There's our IG handles. Tag all of us, show some love. We're doing this for you guys so that you guys have a roadmap on what to do step by step. And hopefully I saw a bunch of clovers and fires in the chat. So I think a lot of people got some value out of this. But if you did, shout us out. It would mean a lot for us. And we thank every single one of you guys who are here today. Again, this is a Friday. You guys could be spending it with family, friends. Some of you guys are working right now. Some of you guys are just in this space and you're ready, you're hungry, you want to do some deals, and you chose your Friday to be here. Thank you so much, guys. It would mean a lot if you shout us out as well on IG. All right, really quick, guys, I'm going to touch up on the $1 Million VIP. We've streamlined this a little bit more. This is what Joseph was talking about on the live today, where it's now more of a process and still getting refined. But again, we have some VIPs in the chat right now. I think Jada's here, Christy. I think I saw Rob, Steven, Max, and somebody else. I don't know.
The Perkins, Cecilia and Chris.
Yeah, Cecilia and Chris. Yeah, they're here too. Lars. Yeah, Lars is in the house. Guys, these are $1 Million VIPs. They've invested in themselves to be part of this exclusive group. They are amazing underwriters. They're learning so much every day. They're growing. It's amazing to see where someone like Max or Jada or all these VIPs went from where they started to where they are now. Like how they're articulating everything, how they're talking to brokers, how they're underwriting like so efficiently, so conservatively, the right way to underwrite, and things that they're doing, they're learning about market analysis, they're networking with people, they're just putting themselves out there and they're taking action, guys. If you're interested in becoming a $1 Million VIP, hit up Joseph on Instagram and he'll tell you exactly what you need in order to do so. And we're here to the Q&A, guys. So if anybody has any questions, now is the time to ask. Raise your hand. We'll bring you up to the stage and we can answer any questions that anybody may have. Or if you want to ask it in the chat, you can ask it in the chat as well.
Here, stop sharing your screen so we can see everyone's beautiful faces. There we go. All right, I see Rob. My boy Rob, always first with his hand up.
I'm trying, man. There's not much else to do up here when it's 10 degrees above zero. So yeah, talking commercial multifamily gets me through these winters. The question is, you ask whoever is given the tour to go on the roof. You ask them to see, the mechanicals. Just on the walk, are they going to bring you on the roof and show you the condition? Are they going to take you to crawl spaces? Like if I bring, one of those minor headlamps, with the so I can see in the dark,
hard hat,
that stuff. Like
Yeah.
They will think I'm crazy, but that's besides the point. But yeah, can you get in those type of areas where you can learn a lot real fast?
Look, I'll tell you this, okay? In your preliminary initial walkthrough, you're probably not going to get into those spaces, right? That's more of a due diligence item. But we did have a broker in one of our properties volunteer to say, hey, did you want to see some of the AC units? They're on the roof. I can get on the ladder because I was there last week. Do you want me to go take pictures of it? I was like, hey, no, you're good. You don't need to do that. But it's typically not a common thing to do at the initial walkthrough, Rob. It's typically more of a due diligence item that once you're under contract, yes, then you will have your contractor. Personally, not you if you don't have to, but you can. I wouldn't recommend it unless you just want to get in there and learn everything. No, it's not a typical thing in your initial walkthrough.
Now, if you have a whole bunch of construction experience, then it's up to you if you want to do that. But typically, that's a hired out position. You're going to have somebody do the inspections for you. You're going to pay for those.
Yep.
So don't risk your life. I was a roofer for a little bit. I did not. It wasn't for me. I like living. All right. I hope that answers that, though. All right. Does anybody else have questions? Man, we must have done just such a good job, Oscar, and mostly you, bro. Shout out to Oscar, guys. He put these slides together all last night. He's a freaking champion. He's a champion.
These were all questions that when I walk through a property, I have the pleasure of listening to Joseph and Ione ask these questions, right? Okay, so kind of give you guys the strategy, right? This is a golden nugget that I don't tell anybody. Actually, it's the first time I've told anybody. But when we walk a property, it's typically Joseph, KJ, myself, and Ione. So it's 4 of us, right? You have the property manager that'll meet us there typically, and then the broker, right? So those 2 are like the representatives for the property. I typically, strategically, I talk to the broker, right? That's my thing, is I build that relationship. I introduce myself. If I haven't met them in person, that's my opportunity. It's like, hey, you've been talking to me or KJ, whatever. And I build that relationship right then and there. So I am building rapport with that broker and strategically doing that, right? Just so that they know, the broker knows who we are and that they feel more confident with our group. While we're doing that, Joseph and Ione are grilling the property manager with questions, right? So they're teaming up on that part, and I'm the one talking to the broker. That's typically how it works. And the broker will have questions for us as a group. Typically, that's what will happen, right? They'll be like, hey, where are you guys from? How have you guys done any deals? How do you structure your deals? What do you do? They'll have those questions, and I'm ready to answer those questions. And I typically just go ahead and answer them like before, by establishing credibility, or if they have anything, I'm an open book. But I'm the one building relationships with those brokers while Joseph and Ione do the property walkthrough.
And it works out great if you do that, because there's a lot of questions that when you ask, and this is not every time, but some property managers have been told not to answer certain questions or to give certain answers to certain questions. And it happens pretty regularly because the seller maybe doesn't want them to know about something or whatever it is, right? So when they're not around the broker or the person that's watching them, that's what they feel like. It may or may not be true. When they're not around them, they're usually a little bit more open and honest. Like, remember that the second property manager that we really liked?
Oh, yeah.
The broker didn't show up.
Oh, yeah.
So she told us everything.
Mm-hmm.
She told us everything. And we learned a lot from her about that property.
And they started off the conversation with, I don't know what I can or cannot say. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys. That's the best conversation to start. I'm like, oh, please, tell us everything.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised. So if you're able to kind of separate the 2 strategically, like Oscar was saying, I would absolutely do it. And it's not like out of malicious intent.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just to have that comfortability for everybody to speak open and honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And that seemed to work for a lot of us. Obviously, when there's been times where Joseph has done the walkthrough by himself, right? And there's been times where Ione and I have done walkthroughs ourselves. So, there's no right or wrong. It's just the way that our team likes to operate. If we're together, then I'll go ahead and start talking to the broker, and I get to know the broker too. Like one of the properties that we walked in, Joseph, like that day that we walked like 6 properties. I don't remember.
Oh, in Houston? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Houston. But I was talking to the broker, and I got to know the broker. Like, she was a professional musician and performed all around Europe. And I was in music, not anything big, but I was in high school band, and I love music, right?
I played the trombone.
I played the trumpet, bro.
Yeah, there we go. Brass.
But I was able to relate to her on that, just on the music itself, because I understood what she was talking about, right? I don't have any like theory background, but I understood what she was talking about. So I was able to relate to her and ask her questions, and I built that rapport, right? And so that's what I'm saying is that's I guess one of the things that we do, we work off of each other's strengths when we go and walk these properties.
You know what's funny? No one told us, hey, this is going to be your role, or you need to be doing this. Kind of just happened like everything else that happened. We just fell into those spots because that's where we felt comfortable. And so we just started doing it that way. And it's been working ever since.
Exactly.
And you know what? I want to shout Ione out because y'all basically never see her. That's just how she is, right? She likes to keep to herself. But man, during these walkthroughs, she gets them. She gets after them with all these questions. So she definitely comes out there swinging to these property managers. So huge shout out to her. She asks a lot of really good questions.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How many questions do you have, Ione? 7.
Plus the extra 4 that I'm gonna think of.
Yeah, exactly. I have 7. Okay, cool. Get it. You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Felix said that's only to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Strategic questions all the time, man. All the time. It's crazy. One other thing I will throw out there is that, you know, this is what I saw on walking a property with someone who was more experienced than me on a Class A unit, right? One of the things that they asked was, going back to the washer and dryer connections that I was telling you guys about, they were saying that the property doesn't come with washer and dryer connections. That's something that the tenants are either they go out and lease their own, or they provide their own, right? Their own washer and dryer. And so one of the things that the person had mentioned was, you know, one of the ways that you can get creative in other income, again, go back to your underwriting. If it supports it, cool. If not, don't do it. But one of the things that they like to do is they see that as an opportunity, and they can go and get a third party to provide washer and dryers in those units. And then they, you know, they charge like maybe 30, 40, whatever they charge monthly for just providing the washer and dryers, like the third party company. And then they would arbitrage that on top of the rent, right? They would charge the tenant like maybe $50 or $60. So that's that little cushion in between there that they're making extra income, but it's also paying off the existing monthly fee that they have, right? And on top of that, that alleviates the maintenance of the washer and dryer to that third party company, and they're not the ones responsible for it. So it's just another way of getting creative on how you can add other income to your properties, right? Those are things that you can look for, but again, it's more of a strategy that you would look at depending on that class asset that you have, the tenant base that you have, and all these other factors with the underwriting as well. So another golden nugget I thought maybe you guys could, you know, get some value out of.
That reminds me of another question you can ask, and it's pretty simple. Are you charging any premiums for any of the units?
Oh yeah, I covered that in the slides. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
I didn't see that one, but that's a good one because you'll find out what they're already doing, or maybe what they're not capitalizing on. Like that one property that I went to, the neighboring property, at that one, they were not charging any premiums for any of the units, and all of the downstairs units, not all of them, sorry, a good portion of the downstairs units had little backyards, had a little porch with a fenced in area. Easily could charge $100 extra for those units versus all the other ones that did not have that extra space, that private patio. So that right there, 50 to $100.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like Joseph and I have been chatting away this whole time.
Oh, no. You just did such a good job, man. Knocked it out of the park.
I guess so.
I guess we're just happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I think unless you have anything else, Joseph, I think I'm good to go.
No, just additional announcements for what we've been working on this week. That's pretty much it. So Oscar already touched on the VIP thing. So if you're interested in that, reach out. We have finalized the platform for all the free vault. So all of these videos, including this one that we've been putting out, all the Zooms, the past recorded Zooms and everything like that, we've put it into a nice, easy platform to log in and be able to watch it like a Teachable or Kajabi type thing. We're going to make a Facebook post with the link to go and join there. I think the link is just join.million-dollar-upside, but we're going to make a Facebook post so you have all the information for that right after this Zoom. And then there's the other one. It's called suggest.million-dollar-upside, and that's for you guys to provide feedback to us on what you guys like and don't like, as well as to suggest additional topics that you'd like to cover or go over that we haven't done yet, or maybe you want to do another Zoom or live about that specific topic to maybe reinforce your knowledge or get more knowledge about it, whatever it is. We're open to any and all feedback, well-intended feedback. I think that's it.
Awesome. Then I'm good to go too. We'll just look out for that Facebook post, guys, and then we will again, all the recordings will be there for you guys, all free. So you guys can go in there and watch everything we've done in the past.